Yes, people, it's me, the one like Judi Love, and welcome to our table. We'll be having some great conversations and celebrating the excellence of creatives. It's time for us to sit at the table together, enjoying great food and great conversation. So whether you're a seasoned pro or an aspiring new artist, you're welcome to our table. I am so glad you're here at our table. I mean, for me, I just wanted to be around people that I find inspiring. I think you're just amazing creatives, have some food and have a good chat. So that's why I've invited you to our table. And Dominic, I could not have you because you are the man of Caribbean fine dining. Am I restricting you by saying that or?
No, not at all. I like that. Yeah, you can tell the people them that.
Let's be honest, like we're sitting here, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I wanna dip into the food.
Yes.
I wanna taste a little bit of this. What is this? What have we got for us?
Yeah, so we've got some root vegetable crisps. We've got some dasheen in there, cassava.
Dasheen?
We've got some sweet potato. We've got lotus root, plantain, and it's really just kind of celebrating, like, you know, our hard food, but kind of reimagining it and taking it to a place that we don't normally expect it.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I've got a fruity, spicy salsa to dip your crisps in. And then we've also
Don't
got
tell me twice.
He didn't even finish telling me once. I was in. Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
I love that. You're not come hungry, yeah? And then this is a little canapé. And I feel like plantain, we've always eaten plantain the same way for years and years and years. Yeah. So I really like to think about plantain in a different way. So I've got a plantain jam, which I've recently released. So we've got a plantain jam here on a nice piece of sourdough with a bit of blue cheese.
Oh.
And whenever I say to people blue cheese and plantain, they go,
Yeah, I can't lie.
but then they see in their head and go, okay. And even if you don't like blue cheese, you're gonna eat that and go, okay, do you know what? I'm converted.
All right, let's put that to the test.
Let's give that a test.
Sourdough as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going all in or
All in.
refined?
All in.
All in?
Yeah. Come on.
That is good. You're right. I think it's the sweet and that, you know, that kind of sour kind
The
of taste.
saltiness of the blue cheese, and then that acidity from the plantain jam.
And you
Our
gave
whole
us
vibe.
one.
You know, like, it's at that stage where you're like, where's the containers at? Yeah. Now as well, we've got all of this loveliness.
Yes.
But what is this beautiful plate
So
that we have in
this
front
is
of us?
one of my signature dishes. This is my ackee and saltfish cake. So I've kind of taken ackee and saltfish, but I've kind of brought in this kind of like European influence, but it's got all that ackee and saltfish flavour in there. So for it to work, it's got to have like loads of Scotch bonnet, it's got to have loads of thyme, spring onion. You know, it's really got to be doing those Caribbean flavours, because that's the thing about Caribbean food. If you're going to try and change it, you still need that punch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You need to recognise that instantly.
What inspired you to even become a chef, really, and take Caribbean food to another level?
Kind of the ceremonial aspect of it. Like Sunday dinner's a whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Peas are soaking from the Saturday. Like, it's like there's this race to get it done before church so that when you come home, it's ready.
Yeah.
Like, it was a whole thing.
Do you think, I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes I question, even with myself, being like second generation, if we've lost that aspect culturally and traditionally, you know, in our
Absolutely.
homes.
And we are losing it a
It's
bit.
shifted.
Really, you think so?
I feel like it's shifted. Like my kids are really busy on a Sunday dinner and then swimming, whatever, and if we go to church and all of that stuff, and I'm a shift worker. So if I don't have to get up early in the morning in order to be able to cook before we do all those things, it makes me happier because I'm not knackered by the end of the day. So I'll always have a good, they'll obviously all eat on a Sunday. Of course they're going to. But I'm not also going to spend half a day cooking food for the family. I'm just not going to do that. But what we do is a ceremony of having people round and, you know, making sure that on a regular basis we have family round, friends round, and we will cook up a meal and I will send everybody home with containers for the food. But I sort of said, no, I cook more food than I know I need so that I know that I can send you home with something, because as growing up in a Jamaican household, we showed our love through food.
Yeah.
We didn't have much money, but we
But you
showed
leave
love.
with your belly full.
Exactly. And I said, and that's how I've grown up, and I don't want to lose that part of how I grew up, and I want my kids to be able to see that we show love through food. And I will send you home with food for 2 days, 3 days, whatever.
It's interesting because my mum, she was working like a lot, you know, especially when we moved to America. She was working like 3 jobs to take care of us, you know. So she would make one big pot of stew, big pot of rice, and like we would have that like pretty much for the next few days because she didn't have the time. But when it was a weekend, when she had time, oh my God, because my mum loves cooking. But it was kind of sad that she didn't have the time to actually like show love through that way. But now that she has a bit more time, it's like you see when she's like, what can I make for you? You know, and I take that on. You know, I love to show love through cooking. And, you know, when you go to a Nigerian party, especially with Yorubas, like, it's literally like, if you don't leave with food, they will cuss you.
Yeah.
Because, like, it is the centerpiece of this thing, like, the clothes, the colors, the food,
clothes.
you know, it is, like, it is really a centerpiece of whatever event, you know.
When I see a Nigerian event, I do feel like I just have this sense of like royalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like this royalty, and you obviously from the Ghanaian culture, you're saying
yeah.
you had those same kind of like intertwined with love and food and being together.
I was speaking to my mum, so I was checking in on her, and she said, "Oh, before you go, David, is my cooler box in your boot?"
Everything would be in that cooler box, from jollof rice to drinks to anything could be in that cooler box.
And you know when there's not events, that cooler box becomes storage, right?
So I was like, "I don't know, Mum. I've just got back from the States. I'll check when I arrive there." She's like, "I need it tomorrow
need it
because an
now."
order's come in."
Yeah.
Food, like, I remember being in Atlanta. I don't know if you've ever done the Coke Museum there. Yes. But they do this thing, and they show you this video before you go into the museum. And the video makes you think about all these moments in your life. When I had my baby, Coke was there. When I got married, Coke was there. When we had our birthdays, Christmas, Coke was there. And you go, oh, wow, this is essential. For us, jollof rice was there. When the cooler box was there. So it's everything you've said absolutely unifies us all. Food, massive. Like I was going to ask you, Charlene, like how often do you do the family gets together?
I grew up in a house where my friends were always allowed to come to our house and chill at my house.
Oh, really?
Boys and girls. In our teen, I guess I realise now that we're doing it so they knew where we were. But it meant that they didn't mind our friends being in and out of the house. My mum would cook extra dinner every single night of the week because my friend Leon and Daniel and Daryl and maybe Colin may well pop round. So she was like, I need to make sure there's food here for them. So I want to have that sort of house as well, where my kids' friends feel like if they pop in, they will always get fed and there's always space for them in this house.
Do you feel like when you were younger, you took that for granted a bit? Like when you get older, you have your own families, you have your own people, you have your own circles. It's like you tend to value it more. Like
Yes.
when I have friends round and like when they leave and they're like, oh my God, they talk about how good the food was. And they're like, it really like hits. And but when you're younger, it's like, you don't even think about it. The fact that like your mum like spent so many more hours making sure that you and your friends could, without much, I know without much money. You know what I'm saying?
And then much like your mum, my parents worked 5 jobs between them. So how on earth they were working 5 jobs between them, but my mum was always, well, as you say, thinking, well, when I cook this food, I need to make sure there's extra for Charlene's friends, just in case they come, so that they can have their bellies full before they go home.
Level. Now I'm tired of making one lasagna.
That was frozen. And you
David, give me some credit, David.
No. I mean, you cooked it before.
And then
frozen. Yeah.
Can I tell you how sad? I'm literally sitting it. First of all, I thought, let everyone talk so I can quickly eat this food. I was like, But I have no relation. Like, my mum is white Jewish. I grew up in Brixton, but she was not a cooker.
Right.
And because of that, I don't cook. So all of these, like, and then everyone just came round to the house and we all just had a big bowl of food and we all broke bread with each other. I'm like, But what my mum, like, so, but every Sunday I would go over to my grand's house, and a bit like what you were saying, I feel like when the matriarch dies. Like, there's something that happens. And it did kind of separate our family in a way that it wasn't a Sunday anymore. We would still have get-togethers, but in different ways. But you lot are actually making me cry right now, deep inside. I'm like, what do you mean?
It's all right, we're going to Charlene's house.
Right.
We're all going, all of us. Yeah.
But you know what was mad? Because my mum was like not a cooker and a white woman, she would, every Sunday, she was like, you better go over to Granny's. And you better take all the Tupperware. Yeah, I'll come back, she'll be like, bring me the food, bring me the food. So she was invested in my family relations, big time.
And your dad was West Indian Jamaican?
Yeah, Jamaican.
So you have the culture, you are the culture.
yeah.
The beauty of the blend of both, really. I suppose when I think about culture and I think about us as artists, like if I look back and I think to myself, what contributed to me coming into being a comedian, I always remember, like, apart from the food, but sitting around with family, there was always those characters, those aunties. Like my mum was one of those aunties, very expression was very highly and fierce, everything was dramatic. You know, it was all that kind of church in the, like there was all of this like facial expressions. And then one of the things I really remember in my childhood was Oliver Samuels.
Oh,
Yes.
Oliver.
Yeah, so Oliver Samuels, if you don't know, was a Jamaican comedian, but he was like a comical performer. And I remember him coming over in the 80s and going to that Hackney Empire.
And Lewisham Theatre. I saw Oliver Samuels at Lewisham Theatre so
and
many
my
times.
mum brought out the fake fur jacket, but you know, it was you was going out when she pulled that out of the back of the wardrobe. Do you know what I mean? And Oliver Samuels was one of those people that I remember in my early childhood, which is about culture and identity, that I felt like propelled me into wanting to be in this area. And as well, I won't lie, some adversities. I grew up with a mum who was quite unwell, and I was a childcare from the age of 9. So I always saw, even when there was bad times, I used to just watch the family still laugh from their belly. And that's what I think connected me to my artistry now. And it makes me want to ask you, like, what do you think, like, culturally, and the experience you had in your culture and what contributed from your identity that pushed you into the art that you're in now, David?
Before I answer that, can I just comment on your first question, which was like, do you feel like we've lost some of that? And then your response to the cooking, and it's really moved me to think about how my kids carry that on. Do you know what I mean? And I've thought about what happens.
I'm like, one fish finger at a time, my friend.
One fish finger at a time, with maybe some of this salsa dip.
But you think about your children are dual heritage, mixed race.
They
you
are,
think, right.
they are. And so, but my daughter kind of grew up with us. So she's like almost like the younger kid of my siblings. Right. So I had her when I was 19.
Oh, right.
So she's like in there like swimwear with all of this. Whereas my son, we've moved out a bit, and he likes his alone time, and I've just noticed that he'll miss some of these family occasions. So I need to like just bring him in on that. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny actually, as you say that. So the last few times I've been to the Caribbean, both Jamaica and Barbados, and it's really saddened me to see how much of like the food is starting to disappear. I mean, in Barbados, they're not growing any food. They're importing about 80-90% of everything they eat.
Wow.
And I'm like, your land is so fertile. I don't understand what's going on here. But then even in Jamaica, I mean, I remember when I went to Jamaica when I was about 7 the first time, and you couldn't move for jerk chicken being cooked on the road. Now you're lucky if you can find some jerk chicken. You're lucky. All the youngsters are in KFC and Popeyes.
So there, I mean, it was just KFC for a really long time, and you know the queues. We go to Jamaica, the queues to get into KFC.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
But one thing they controlled really well, which is not dissimilar to Trinidad and I think in part Barbados, is they didn't have those foreign fast foods coming in. And for a long time it was just KFC. But increasingly, the Jamaican government is allowing more and more American fast food places to open up there. And that is what happens, and the proof is there around the world. You let more of the international fast food joints in, it pushes out the food.
But then you also, what you get is that quick meal where you're just eating to like, oh, now I'm not hungry. And what you miss is that little time to sit down, talk with your family, discuss things, you know.
It's important because when you were saying about, obviously, you're hearing what Michelle's saying, you're thinking about, you know, reflecting back on your own children and stuff and culture. How do you, as a father, as a man, a black man, an African man who is British, second generation, how do you be able to reflect on that but still input the culture into your household?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things, like, you know, you're talking about these foreign foods coming in and kind of robbing us of this time. One of my friends, Dennis, is Ugandan by way of Kenya. Right. And you phone Dennis and ask him how he is. Firstly, you're lucky if he picks up the phone. And he's like, I can't tell you until I've broken bread and looked you in the eye.
Wow.
Even into so sometimes Dennis is like, I'm gonna be in town and I'm gonna walk from south to north. Come and join me for a walk.
That's not a walk, that's a pilgrimage, bro. From what?
The guy from south to north. That's what he does. And he'll just say to people,
do a little whip round the common or something.
But you know, he's probably seen about 10 people in that time. Okay, I can join you from that bus stop to that bus stop, and then someone else will come and join him. So there's something about this breaking bread. Yes. And I think one of your question to me was, how has this influenced you in your career? Yeah. Several people have said, Mum did 3 jobs, 5 between the 2 of them. So the work ethic around this table, it just by osmosis comes through. And then when we would eat as a family, the debating that would go on. And it takes a while to learn how to hold your own ground in these different spaces and forums, but when that starts to happen, or when it started to happen for me, was like a real kind of sense of settling into my true self.
When you say hold your grounds in these different areas, are you talking about areas amongst family and social, or are you talking about in the industry?
So, firstly, family, because I don't know about you, but my parents never had a teenage years. It was like all of a sudden you were an adult, and that was expected of us. Suddenly you're like now at the table to give your opinions. So part of, to answer your other question about how I bring that to my kids, they're sat at the table with us, having conversations, be it politics, be it sport, be it film, be it whatever. We're having these conversations. But learning to take that out into the work environment was a bit of a transition, because people are speaking a little bit differently. And so I've had to learn how to go, oh, this is much. The other day on set, people were going, oh, my favourite actor was Hopkins, was whatever. And I knew it was coming to me, and I was thinking, the only name I have is Denzel. But there's part of me going, wow, should I be saying that, or should I be looking at Guinness or all of these? And I was just like, and then the director said, and you, who's your? And I was like, yeah, Denzel. But I still felt like, I do like the Jimmy Stewarts and the whatever.
Get tempted to
but I realised that nobody else was thinking, you know, I have to think outside of what actually inspired me, you know.
Yeah, it's so funny because I can relate, because I also grew up on the Denzel and everything, but also Nollywood is a huge... I used to, anytime someone would go to Nigeria when I was listen, they would go to Nigeria and say, what do you want when I come back? I would even as a kid, I would be like, Nollywood films.
Wow.
Because, and I realized now as an adult, that was the first place that I actually saw myself, for real. And it also made me feel connected to this place where I'm from, is definitely in my blood, but I hadn't been to yet, you know? So I got to see, because I felt like outside of Nigeria, outside of Africa was portrayed very differently than in Nollywood. Like, you see them falling in love, you see them betraying their friend, you see them just living life. I'm always about kind of like balancing making sure you show the full breadth
Both
of
things
who.
can be true.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
all things are true, you know. And so for me, Nollywood served that. And when I saw like women of all shapes and sizes, all different tones, like juggling like 5 men, I'm like, oh,
Five men. Let's not cheers to that.
I was like that.
We haven't cheered to it. Let's cheers to that.
I was like,
juggling 5 men.
no, like Nollywood was great for that. Like it would show like these beautiful women that were just like slim and thick and this and that. And I was like, I saw myself. You know, when I saw Genevieve Naji on screen and Omotola Kinde, I was like, this is it, you know.
There's no compromise. They're not having to compromise.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose what you're saying as well is being in front of the camera and being behind the camera is so important for maybe the others who are going to think, like, who's the name?
Yeah.
Where do you want your, like, how do you see yourself, you know, in 10 years' time in the industry, or the stamp that you leave from being an actress?
Oh my God. Well, I'll tell you about one of my dream roles is definitely to play Storm. I would love to sink my teeth into that character. I feel like that character will...
Put in the universe.
Would play your Black Panther.
To be honest, thinking of playing, I've read a lot of people say they'd like to see you play James Bond.
This keeps coming
I
round.
can see that.
Oh, we see it.
Yeah.
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 100%. Is that somewhere?
Well, look, you know, your question about where do you see yourself at the end, I think about the 7-year-old me in that question. I think about that 7-year-old boy that saw Sammy, that saw, well, didn't see Denzel at 7, but later saw Sydney, but was also watching these different heroes on screen and going, oh, that would be really interesting, but, oh, I don't get to play him. I'm getting to play this person. So I was going to ask you if that affects like the choices that you make, all of you, when you do things like this.
As a comedian, that is definitely one of the blessings that we get to stand on that stage and create our own. I don't know how you feel
I
about it.
completely agree.
Yeah, because what I say when I'm on stand-up, when people see me on TV and then come see me on stand-up, they're like, what? Wow. I was like, you didn't expect that, did you?
Yeah, and also it's just like doing stand-up comedy is a kind of equalizer. Once you get in the room, you know, like once you get the gig.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like
how it is.
that is what can be a bit of a struggle. But I think once you get on stage, it doesn't matter what your gender is, what your colour is, what your what your sexuality is. It's like whoever is the funniest is the funniest.
But it's interesting what you're saying.
I mean?
I feel what you're saying in regards to once you get in, because I feel like for some stage there's only so particular people that would get in.
Yeah.
For you as a mixed race, dual heritage woman, very pretty. When I was starting comedy,
Thank you for saying so.
When I was starting comedy, they used to say to us, you know, the pretty girls can't be comedian. Did you ever feel like you was like those things were projected onto you?
Do you know what? To be honest, no. Like not in terms of comedy, in other jobs, in other things, but in terms of comedy, no. If I was to think, because we could say, oh, you know, oh, did you feel like that? But no, you could say that about being a woman in comedy, just baseline
just that.
and then a black woman on the mainstream circuit, because it is like, you know, two blind people bumping into each other in a park. Like when we see each other, we're like, hey! And it's always in passing. Do you know what I mean? But like when we see each other, we're so aware that there's a rarity of seeing us on the circuit. There's like this instant bond. But in terms of comedy, lucky for me, I started comedy in New York, where it was just more of a mixed bill. There was a lot of black women on the circuit. It wasn't until I came here that I was like, oh, there's like 4 of us. And now it's changed. Now you've got a lot more like younger black women on the circuit. And I'm always just trying to make a point of being as supportive, as welcoming, as kind. Like even you saying, will you come here? I'm like, anything. Whatever you want. Because at 9:30 a.m. on a Friday. It would be an honour. It is a joy to be here.
I'm sorry, next time will be later. But you know what?
But
it's important. This thing that they put out, especially for women and as women of colour, of there can't be too many of you, or else there's not enough space. There's enough space.
But it's not just that. It's you get women working together, and we must all be battling against each other
exactly.
in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Where actually that may have been true at one point in time, but that's a really long time ago. where as women, I think we work to bring each other up. You know, we work, you know, especially when you are a minority in lots of different communities. You know, you see someone else, it's like, you know, when I saw Judi and Brenda and Kelly rock up to work in their do-rag and headscarf, I was like, yeah. That's a bit of me. So then I was like, why am I wrap my hair every night to go to bed. Why am I brushing it out before I get into work? That makes no sense.
And it's that understanding, like, just that understanding, like, you know, we're very sort of about facial expression. I could do a face, and Charlene knows. You will know what the face is. And that collaboration, I think, we really need to stay away from the thing of us being separated and there can't be enough space, and more about the collaboration. Because of things like that, we have firsts. Like Charlene and myself, we was the first black panel ever of females ever on TV. It's crazy, and I think for all of us, there's probably situations where we've had first, do you know what I mean? So it really makes me think about how important it is for that narrative to kind of be moved out of the way. Like Charlene, you're our newswoman. Okay. Yeah.
And we love to see
We
it.
love
We
to see
love
it.
to see it.
We love to see
We
it.
love to see it, and it's such when you come on and you do the news. I don't even watch the news as much because there's so much going on. But when you're on, I'm just turning it up, kids. I'm Charlie. They're like, we know Auntie Charlie. Yeah, but she's on the news. You know, I read that you actually wanted to be a lawyer.
I did. I wanted to be a lawyer up until I was 16. And the reason why I wanted to be a lawyer is that my uncle was jailed for something that he didn't do when I was about 8. Wow. And he was in Brixton Prison, and we used to go visit him in Brixton Prison. So prisons never scare me in any way because I was going into prisons to visit my uncle quite early on.
But it wasn't from my uncle.
You know? And so I always felt, you know, when you talk about like the dinner table things, you're around the dinner table and people sort of talk about it. And at a very young age, I was able to pick up on the fact that he didn't do it. And also a lot of it was about not having the right representation in court. So I was like, actually, what I'd quite like to do is fight for those whose voices are often silenced. I figured out that rich people at that point, whatever they did, as long as they paid enough money to a lawyer, they were not going to Brixton Prison. So it's like, actually, I will change the world and speak for the silenced through being a lawyer or a barrister. And I loved LA law growing up. Oh, I loved LA law growing up. I was like, oh no, you know when they do the big speech at the end and then they get the person off? I was like, that's what I want to do. And then went to Croydon Crown Court to do work experience. And I was like, it's not like it, it's not like it. You know, it's, I was like, it's all like parking tickets and fines. And I'm like, this is not for me. And I thought, how can I change the world in another way? And I was like, actually, I could amplify their voices on a larger platform. And that's why I decided to do journalism.
Seeing you make so much difference. I think about TV, like one of my things I have to say, riches. I mean, not because I was in it for 5 minutes, but what I'm saying is it's these kind of shows, Riches, 100%. Champion, all these shows that we really want back and we need for those seasons, because I think in all of it we're talking about representation and changing the narrative of certain stereotypes. 100%. And when we look, you know, we've got an actress, we've got a news reporter, we've got a chef, we've got a comedian, we've got an actor, and it shows all the complexities, beautiful complexities. And actually all the skills that we have in so many different areas that we need to keep championing these shows to come on. 100%. So that you can see a rich 100%. Family, do you know what I mean? You can 100%. See an educated black man, you can see all these other dynamics because it's so important. Yeah. And that's why I have you guys here. What I do want to ask you, because I mean, time is going and thing, right? I need to say to you, if you could have a superpower that enhance your creativity, what would it be, Deborah?
I would say to read people's minds, but like be able to tap out whatever. Like, okay, that's
too much.
That's enough. You know what I mean? I think being an artist, I think one of the most beautiful things about being an artist is that you're able to like appeal to people's hearts and their feelings. And as actors, we portray people's most private moments on screen or on stage in front of everyone. Yeah. Those things you don't tell anyone, those things that you're embarrassed about or whatever, we're doing that on screen. It's so vulnerable. And I think as an actor, it's made me almost like a studier of people. That's really what it is, you know, like you're not acting, you're not lying, you're telling the truth about what this person would do in this experience and just put them together, and that's your case study, you know? And
So reading minds would help you to...
Yeah, I think reading minds, and also I'm nosy too.
Yeah,
So.
we want a bit of that, Charlene.
I'm a bit nosy.
My superpower, well, I'm not sure if it classifies as a superpower,
Your things.
but I would say to have a less scattered brain, I think. I've got, all my school reports will say that I have a short attention span and I need to learn to concentrate. And that's gone through to adulthood, which has been a plus point because I do so many different things, but also my ability to concentrate on a project for longer than 5 minutes would be probably a massive advantage. I love ideas. I don't like follow through. So for you, you know, there's a lot of hard work that goes into doing something like this. A lot of my work is working for other people, where I can come up with an idea for something and then someone else does the follow through. You know what happened with me in my book. I ended up writing it in 10 days because I loved the idea and I thought it was amazing, and I got really bored
But it
writing
was amazing. No place like home. It was amazing. Dominic, what was your superpower be?
I wish there was 2 of me.
Oh.
So yeah, I wish there was 2 of me. Do you ever just feel like there's just not enough time in the day to just like... and because I'm just so particular, you know, like trying to get someone else to do
how you like it.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard.
You can train people,
It's
but there's going to be
stress.
no one else like you. And yourself, Michelle?
Probably just be able to look at myself objectively. Like, there's a lot of ego and self involved, and I'm like, no one cares about anything I'm doing as much as me. Like, you know, like I can be quite self-critical.
Yeah.
And when I look back at things that I've done when I was younger, I'm like so much kinder about things that I've done. And like in the present, I'm always really quite harsh on myself. And sort of thinking about what you was saying just there is like in my mind, when people go, how do you make a show? I'm like, don't let perfection get in the way of completion. Because it's normally that is the thing that can like hold you up, is that just being really quite self-critical. So yeah, as I'm getting older, you know, as many comics have spoken about before me, you give less shits, but do you know what I mean? So it's coming in incrementally, bit by bit.
Bit by bit. I love that. And yourself, David?
It's such an interesting question because sat here, I can just see loads of superpowers. And so then I'm thinking, actually, my superpower would be this: bringing people together.
Yeah.
I have a production company.
Yeah. It's really good. David Bond. That was smooth, like his skin.
Honestly, I think it is that. It's bringing people. We have this production company, and we shot, the first film we shot was a film called Sycorax, and it was essentially, the cast was Natalie Emmanuel, Nicholas Pinnock, myself, Joel Fry, Pippa Bennett-Warner. And we were sat, and we've known each other for years. And we were like, we're never on the same job. We've never worked together. So you saying, yeah, I booked you for that, I'm clocking that. And you guys coming together at the first and being the first, like now we're in these positions where we can start to curate our own work. And Nicholas Pinnock and myself would never be cast in the same movie because it's like, well, one of you will fill that role. Do you know what I mean? And so actually for us to be able to bring people together, to just have a moment, to sit and go, who are you, what are you about, what story do you want to tell? And I'd like to do this time, and you do that, and so it's bringing people together.
Yeah, I think my superpower would be to take the blinkers off people's eyes, to know that, you know, there's, you know, you hear, we've all probably heard the line of worrying that whether this will have enough ratings, whether this will sell enough, whether even we question ourselves whether we are enough and whether we can do something. We all have different experiences in life that make us have that feeling of imposter syndrome or looking at our own value. So for me to just be able to help take the blinkers off people's eyes, and whether that's creating something for people to see and
but
think.
you do that anyway.
But you know, but I think
I mean, like on a friend's level, if there's a friend that's brutally honest to open people's eyes, you do that daily. You do. That's what I mean. You do it. You do it daily. You're very straight. You see things that other people may not be able to see with themselves or within situations. You're amazingly good at that.
But do you know what, Charlene? Everyone's superpower, you can see that in everyone.
Yeah.
Every single one of you, what you said about being double. But here you are doing this. You were at the Langham. You did
what I'm
this.
saying.
Yeah.
You're doing
Yeah.
double anyway. Seeing into people's minds. That's what you
It's
do
so
for a
funny, the
living.
superpowers
Do you
that
know what I
we said
mean?
we actually
you
have.
actually
That's
all have them.
So maybe
so
I'm done what I was
interesting.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
The blinkers are off. We're here together. We'll be able to
100%.
say that we've all got our superpowers, and those who watch will know that they've got their superpowers too. So, you know what? It's been a great, great evening, and thank you for joining me at our table. Great,